What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Leaving Earth and transitioning to the Andromeda Galaxy, this place was home to a rich tapestry of races and histories, at least until the Skrulls rose to power. While their early history remains largely ambiguous, what we do know is that some 1 billion years ago, the Skrull world of Skrullos was visited by the Celestials. Taking place prior to their experiments on humanity, the task followed the same form and function: gather a handful of the primitive Skrull race and modify their genes. But unlike early humanity, this saw the rise of 4 groups instead of 3. The baseline Skrulls, with the potential for future mutations, the deviant Skrulls, the eternal Skrulls, and finally, the Dire Wraiths. Governed by narcissism and geocentrism, the deviants found themselves able to shapeshift and came to view themselves as the perfect form of their race. On the other hand, the vast cosmic energies of the eternal Skrulls led to a life of peace with no true concerns for the goings-on of their own planet. Existing as something akin to the Morlock and the Eloi, Queen Slugurt convinced the deviants that they alone were the rightful heirs to the mantle of the Skrull race. Considering all others to be beneath them, Slugurt and her soldiers attacked the eternal Skrulls, annihilating all but one. Convincing Slugurt to spare his life, Kliban revealed the truth to the deviants, that by the actions of the Celestials, they had imposed upon them a half-life. That with each new generation, their shape-shifting abilities would give rise to future mutation, which would go unchecked, and eventually push their race into extinction. However, the eternal Skrull stood unchanging and immortal, living tributes to the greatness of what would one day become the Skrull Empire. Speaking of a future where their race would stretch into the stars, Kliban convinced Slugurt to spare his life, and in doing so, transcended themselves into godhood, creating the foundation of the Skrull's central religion, the Pantheon, and the Book of Worlds. Where this newfound pact came with the fall of the Eternal Skrulls, the Dire Wraiths were on the march themselves. War-driven and without mercy, the Dire Wraiths instilled a fear within the deviants that they had never known. Possessing powers of sorcery, it was believed by the deviants that should the Dire Wraiths make their move and attack, the deviant Skrulls themselves would be totally destroyed. Taking to the offensive, the deviant Skrulls marshaled their forces across the planet, from every large city and every small village. Outnumbered by an estimated ratio of 1,000 to 1, the Dire Wraiths fled Skrullos, taking up residence in the Dark Nebula. With no one left to challenge their dominance over Skrullos, the Skrull race spent the next 500,000 millennia evolving and changing. Looking to the holy texts of the Book of Worlds, the Skrulls intended to bring about their prophesied future of conquering the Andromeda Galaxy by expanding outward in every conceivable direction. Thus, the development of interstellar travel and enhanced weapons saw the Skrulls spreading to distant worlds, killing nearly every member of every race they encountered. The gods of Hadeth, Omenmaker, Pathlighter, Druff, and Ryas were among the many to fall to the power of the Skrulls and were in turn used as propaganda, their desecrated remains spread among the halls of worship as a testament to the power of the Skrulls themselves and their own pantheon of gods. By 10 million BC, the Skrull race had left behind their days of war. Now the unrivaled rulers of the Andromeda Galaxy, their lack of need for war gave way to a more peaceful age of exploration. Led by Emperor Doric I, the throne world had been moved from Skrullos to Tarnax IV. Recognizing that the power of the far-off Shi'ar Empire resided in their conscription of races instead of their wholesale slaughter, Doric sought to bring other races from other galaxies into the fold. Visiting the planet Hala in the Greater Magellanic Cloud, the Skrulls found the planet home to 2 races, the Kree and the Kotati. Primitive as they were, the Skrulls took a handful of each race, left them on the oxygen-rich blue area of Earth's moon, and provided them with a year's worth of supplies and resources, looking to test each race by returning in 1 year and surveying how the Skrull technology was used. Arriving at the experiment's end, Doric looked upon the works of both races, and to his dismay, the Kree had built a massive technological city, while the Kotati had built a lush and vast forest. Finding the Kotati more in line with their peaceful views, the Skrulls judged against the Kree, considering them to be unworthy. Angered at this verdict, and in a twist of irony, the Kree delegation slaughtered Emperor Doric and his entire Skrull delegation as well as the Kotati on the moon. Reverse engineering the Skrull technology, the Kree traveled back to their homeworld, slaughtered what remained of the Kotati, and began their war against the Skrulls. Using their newfound understanding of interstellar travel, the Kree built vast fleets of warships and invaded Krull space, conquering world after world in a blitzkrieg of galactic proportions. Seeing all they'd built seemingly vanish before their eyes, the savior of the Skrulls came in the form of a single negligent Kree warrior. Sent by the Supreme Intelligence, who stood as both a spiritual and political leader of Kree society, this single soldier was tasked with acquiring the Crystal of Ultimate Vision, a nigh-omnipotent artifact that allowed for vast reality manipulations. However, where the origin of the crystal is unknown, those seeking to capture it must pass a test. Resting on a pedestal on the far side of the universe in the Citadel of Light and Shadow, the crystal will tempt its capturer with wonderful visions of absolute power, giving them control over the very fundamental forces of the universe. Those who were foolish enough to reach for it out of greed would find themselves failures and their entire race cast into evolutionary stagnation, unable to evolve as the universe passed them by. But for those who reached for it out of virtue, they would be granted its full power. Intending to secure the crystal as a means to not only eliminate the Skrulls, but seize control of the entire universe, the Kree were deemed failures and frozen in their evolutionary state. Realizing that breaking free from this curse superseded all others, the Supreme Intelligence recalled the Kree war fleets to Hala, initiated the Universal Inhuman Project, and began the establishment of the Accuser Corps. And so as the ages continued on, new emperors rose to replace the old. The Kree-Skrull War was cooling off, and by 10,000 BC, the Skrulls had long returned to their role of explorers. With the unconquered space of the universe growing smaller owing to the continued expansion of the Shi'ar, the Badoon, and the Kree, the Skrulls looked to expand beyond their own universe and explore other dimensions. Ordering his science council to initiate the Singularity Project, this rift in space-time released energy which was confined in a stasis cube. Analyzing its power, while the Skrulls remained blissfully unaware that they had successfully managed to breach the Beyondverse, the home of the White Lords of Wild Space, what they did not know was that the power contained within this cube was capable of reshaping reality itself. Ordering the artifact to be brought to his chambers, the unknown emperor of the Skrull Empire became obsessed, constantly talking to the cube, prizing it above even his own empire. However, the cube itself began to grow, adopting the traits of the now mad emperor, and in doing so, christened itself the Shaper of Worlds, annihilated 2/3 of the Andromeda Galaxy's population, and took off to the stars, setting the Skrull development back millions of years, and returning them to a barbarous state.